shotgunning applications. Everybody thinks it's a question about admissions, but it's really a question about finances, but not in the way that most people think. So shotgunning applications refers to the fact that when a student just applies to just a whole mess of schools. And recently I came across a social media post where a student or a family had talked about how their student applied to 45 schools. And they posted the list of those schools. Now, I have no idea who this family is, and I have no idea what kind of student they are, but so I have no idea whether or not they're going to get into any or all of these schools. But the list was a fairly impressive list. It included all the Ivies, a lot of the near Ivies and public Ivies. So it looked basically like someone just took the top 45 or 50 schools in the country based on whatever ranking and just applied to all of them. Now, most people would say that applying to 45 schools is too much, and I would agree with that. But most people think about it in terms of admissions, right? Like, what are the chances of this person getting into these schools? And oh my goodness, how many essays did you have to write? And on the financial side, it's like, how much in application fees did you have to pay to do all of those applications, right? And those are valid questions. But really what this situation tells me is really a financial or college financial cost. And what I mean by that is not that this family maybe had to pay out a ton of application fees, but rather when you apply to 45 different colleges, it tells me that the student has no idea what they actually want. Because in this list of schools, there were small schools, big schools, publics, privates, all over the country, right? Eastern seaboard, middle or west coast. Some are like in the downtowns of cities, some are in the suburbs, and some are in the middle of nowhere. I've actually been to a number of these schools that are on the list, and I actually know them and have seen them firsthand, or live very close to where they're located, so I know what the campus is like. And so what happens is, there's all these different campus settings. And when you get down to it, picking a college is kind of like buying a house, right? Is you have to live there. And so if you don't like being in the middle of a city or being in the middle of nowhere, no matter the name of the school on the building, you're not going to have an enjoyable time, or it might be much tougher to have an enjoyable time. And that means that you are more likely to transfer. Now, today, a not so small segment of the student population transfers colleges each year for all sorts of reasons. Not because they flunk out or anything, but it's because of things like the school's too big, too small, the weather's too hot or it's too cold, or any number of other reasons. Don't like the dorm room, don't like the food, the dorm is too far from the cafeteria, don't like my roommate, whatever the situation may be, okay? But when you transfer, it introduces something called transfer leakage. And that means when credits earned at one school do not transfer to the other school. So you end up having to retake those credits at the new school, which lengthens the time to graduation. And when you lengthen the time to graduation just for the undergraduate, that leads to increased costs. So everybody's, on the social media posts, people are like amazed, like, wow, like you applied to 45 and that's a lot of essays and Lord knows how much in application fees. But really, this is a financial question because the student is much more likely to transfer, which is going to introduce, or much more likely to introduce transfer leakage, which is going to increase costs for that family, almost assuredly. So 45 is a lot. It may sound really impressive, and every year there's an article that'll come out like student applied to 100 schools and got into all 100 and earned like $1 million in scholarships or whatever, and sounds really impressive. Those are the exceptions. The reality is when a student applies to a lot of colleges that are all different locales, all different settings, it really means they don't know what they're doing. And I would always advise the family and the student to really focus more and figure out what it is that they actually want or what they actually don't want, and start to narrow down that list. You're going to have a lot better time. It's going to be a lot more focused, a lot fewer essays to write, a lot less in application fees you're going to have to pay, and you're going to be more likely that you're actually going to get to that school and actually make it through there and graduate from there versus more likely having to transfer out for whatever reason. Anyway, that's it for today. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.